Hello everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of Video Clips. And I have a couple of announcements. First of all, remember, if you're interested in a career doing what we do here, we can train you. You can start at any time. We always have classes starting. And so if you're interested, send me an email at pampopper@msn.com. I spoke a lot about our conference yesterday. You can also go to our website, WellnessForumHealth.com, learn more about our conference. And then we're right in the middle of chronic fatigue. That's a 4-class series, and if you'd like to take that class, please send me an email. I am also doing an ongoing series of classes called Cancer 201, Alternative Treatments. And originally this was scheduled to be a 4-class series, and that's not going to work out because there's so much material to cover. So we've just had the 5th class. I've got 2 more scheduled already for this year. And the group that is the original people who enrolled in this group, and we can take new people all the time because I film them every week and put them on a video platform. But everybody says, well, as long as you'll keep creating material and teaching it, we'll keep showing up to take the class. So I'm going to keep going, and maybe this will end up being 30 classes, I don't know, but lots to cover. And we're talking about things like Laetrile, and we're talking about green tea and medicinal mushrooms and cholestoxins. And my idea is to just create this huge library of lectures and slide sets that show an objective look at all of these things so cancer patients can make better decisions about them. All right, so today I'm going to talk not about facts and figures. And what inspired me to do this is, for some reason, I don't know if it's just great minds think alike or what it is, but people tend to send me the same email. It's like in a 3 or 4 day period of time, I'll have 4 dozen people send me the same email question. It's kind of uncanny. And they come from somebody in Germany and somebody in Iowa, and I don't know. So anyway, but for whatever reason, I've been getting a lot of emails from people saying, you know, I'm really sideways about all of this. And by the way, we have great therapy delivered in teleconference form, very inexpensive. We have an adolescent group, we have COVID groups, we have anxiety and depression. Sometimes those things overlap. And I recommend those things highly, but people are just so worn out, and they're tired, and they're scared, and all kinds of things. And so somebody said, well, how is this affecting you personally? You know, generally speaking, except when you're really touched by something awful, you seem like you're pretty cheerful on video clips. And I'm a pretty cheerful person, period. I like being that way. But I thought I'd talk about something kind of personal that I think is affecting a lot of other people. In fact, I get emails about this all the time. And so I'll just start by saying, you know, in terms of how it's affecting me personally, the first thing is I don't sleep much anymore because I've been writing a book and working on a lawsuit and preparing 4 videos a week, and you know, so that's part of it. And answering a few thousand emails, 10,000 or more emails every week. It's pretty amazing. But going beyond that, I think I'm like most people. I miss parts of my own life, my old life. I like going to concerts and plays and visiting museums and family gatherings, and I want to assure you that those things are going to come back more likely sooner than later. And I think it's very important, I've said this before, that we not buy into this new normal crap that they keep trying to sell us, where we're going to avoid one another and wear masks and stand on circles. We're going to get our lives back at some point. But there's one area where there will never be any going back, I think, and that is some of the friendships and acquaintances that have been lost as a result of this episode, and this has affected me a lot. You know, just to sort of give you some perspective, I think there are a lot of different ways you can categorize people. Me, you, the people who watch my videos and correspond with me, generally speaking, have known what's going on for a long time with this whole episode. Then we have people who listen to the media and the government, wait for instructions about what to do. And then we have a lot of people in the middle. I've talked about these people in the past who, when this all happened, they were overwhelmed with what is going on with my kids. I've never done a Zoom meeting before, and it's not hard to imagine that they didn't spend a whole lot of time thinking about what's going on until recently, when things got a little more settled. And I think those people are coming our direction as they find out more. But I think what's happened is it's become impossible to maintain relationships between those of us who know and those of us who are waiting for instructions. And this is how some of us have lost friends and stopped talking to family members and disconnected from groups and organizations that we used to belong to. I don't think there's any way not to be sad about it. Some of the relationships in my life that have been severed go back decades, and some of the organizations I'm disconnecting from, I was pretty attached to. But I've gradually changed my thinking about this, and I feel some sadness, but I've gained some perspective, and it's a lot like what I was talking about yesterday with David Katz, putting numbers in perspective. Something sounds scary until you add context, and then it's not. And something sounds terrible or cataclysmic until you put some context to it, and then it's not. So anyway, I think first it seems that some of our relationships simply could not survive having a difference of opinion about COVID-19, which is interesting because humans in civilized countries, including the United States, have been able to maintain relationships while thinking differently about a lot of things for a very long time. So what happened here? Well, I think the change actually started a long time ago. Those of us who knew what was going on at the start of this journey just had a different mindset when this whole thing began. I think many of us, myself I can speak for, we've had a healthy distrust of government and health officials. We had and continue to have good reasons for this distrust. I mean, I've been writing about the partnership between government, healthcare, and industry for a long time. Forks Over Knives, a film I was involved with, covered that really well. A lot of other films I've been in, other books I've written, Food Over Medicine talks about it at length. And every year the audience for this information has grown. In other words, more and more people have become distrustful of government and health officials. So when this all started, those of us who already were on the skeptical side of things, the first thing we thought is, looks a little funny. I think we better do some research, which we did, and then we formed some opinions about what was happening. And as we continued to research, we found out that we had been right in the beginning, and new information continued to prove us right. Those waiting for instructions, well, these were the people who used to send hate mail when I created a video and an article reporting that most cancer screening tests didn't reduce your risk of dying of cancer, or that certain aspects of early childhood health care should be re-examined. I think you know what I mean by that. Or that the head of the department of something at Harvard was incompetent. These people weren't sending, by the way, detailed analyses with a contrary point of view. These were just believers who bought the myth of Western medicine being the best of everything and just couldn't fathom that they should look at things differently. These are the people who are the other. They're watching television and news shows and reading newspapers and watching government press conferences, which are on TV every day, and they believe everything that they're told. We looked at and listened to some of this stuff and checked it out. They watched and read some of this stuff and became believers without checking anything out, just like they were believers of other things in medicine before, some of the things I just listed. There's no possible way to resolve this gap in the way people form their opinions. And what these people did essentially was they drew a line in the sand stating that if we didn't choose to believe government in the media, game over. Well, it's impossible to have a relationship with people who make belief in what the government and media say as a prerequisite for friendship or association. And I think this is really sad, but it's also very true. So the choice became for some of us, me included, to either sit quietly and not rock the boat by offering a fact or two to check out, or to disconnect. Everyone has to make up their own mind about this, but disconnect was the only choice that I could make. At my age, I just don't have the ability anymore to spend time on people, places, and things that don't lead to positive outcomes. So following these people leads to living in a world that I don't care to live in. So I drew a line in the sand and said I'd die fighting for freedom and truth, or die trying, because I didn't think life waiting for instructions was what I really wanted to see as my future. So the bottom line is that we've all been through this. In fact, almost everybody I've talked to who sees our side of this issue says the same thing, and they've been tormented about it. And And that is a change, and I don't think there's any going back at this point in time. I might be pleasantly surprised. But I'll tell you something else. I always try to have some good news. I have met I've met thousands of people from all over the world. I've become email pals with a lot of you. We correspond back and forth about a lot of things. You send me things, good news, bad news, and everything in between. So lots of new people coming into my life, and I've formed close relationships with people, particularly those who are working with me, or I'm working with them, in whichever way it turns out, on trying to solve the problems that this whole mess has created for the world and for people. And I've thought about this a lot. None of these people, to my way, at least the way things were in February, would have ever crossed my path had it not been for this event, okay, for this god-awful event. And so these new relationships, by the way, are much newer than some of the disconnects from old relationships. I mean, some of those go back decades, and some of these people I've only known for 3 or 4 months. But these new relationships are actually built on much more solid foundations than the old ones were. Because remember, the old relationships from which we have disconnected are based on, we have to agree or you can't be here. You have to be quiet or you can't be here. If you have a different opinion, keep it to yourself, don't tell me. These new relationships are built, there are people. These are thinking people who are not frightened by a contrary opinion. They don't feel insecure by somebody disagreeing with them about something. These are people who I think we could all sit around the table at a dinner party someday, and I hope we will. And you guys probably can think of some people like this in your own life where you'll talk about all kinds of things, and you may belong to different political parties and have a different idea about things like education and healthcare, but I don't see this same type of line in the sand, you must obey and agree, or you're out of here kind of mentality that has severed and fractured the relationships we had before. So I'm not oblivious to the impact of it. I can tell you it hurts my heart to have disconnected from some people, but I can't worry about it. I can't change it, and I don't think that again, at my age, I'm capable of sustaining relationships under those circumstances. So I too have been impacted by this in many, many ways, more than this. But I mean, if you ask me to share, I'm sharing. And about this particular issue, because I think it impacts so many people, and so many people are devastated about it. So I hope it's helpful for whatever it's worth. All right, as usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it, learning about this stuff, and I'll be back to you tomorrow with more news.